Welcome to Etrata, the silencer. As far as our opening hand goes, yeah, I like it a lot. We've got Sky Diamond, Charcoal, a lot of diamonds in our hand. But yeah, we'll definitely keep on this one. Don't have a lot of card advantage, but it's always nice to have a board wipe and some spot removal. And some nice ramp. This deck definitely likes to have some ramp. All right, Putt's going to lead off with Backwater and then get that live game, and then we will get going. I'll cover Commanders in just a second. So let's go and lead off with a Scalding Tarn. Drawn to Resonator, that's really nice. Let's go get on Scalding Tarn, and then nothing for one. Let's just go and crack Scalding Tarn. That way we can get the land fetch out of the way, and do not forget about it while covering Commander. So get down Faded Pools and kick him back over to our opponent. We're playing Etrata, the Silencer. Cannot be blocked. Whenever she deals combat damage to a player, exile target creature that player controls, then put a hit counter on that card. That player loses the game if they own 3 or more exiled cards with hit counters on them. Shuffle Etrata into their library. We're playing against the Mimeoplasm, the official 1960s horror monster. Let's go and lead off with the Drowned Catacomb. We could go for Demonic Tutor on something like Phyrexian Arena to get some card draw going, but we may not be able to get it down for next turn. Let's go for Charcoal Diamond. I feel that's a little bit of a safer play, especially if we don't have the land drop. We want to work to Gilded Lotus as quickly as possible. But yes, we were playing against the 1960s horror monster, the Mimeoplasm. As the Mimeoplasm enters the battlefield, exile 2 creature cards from graveyards. If you do, enters the battlefield as a copy of one of those cards, then it enters the battlefield with additional +1 counters equal to the power of the other card. Drawn to Catacombs. Let's go ahead and go for... Yeah, let's do this. Let's go for Catacombs. And then we can get down Sky Diamond and go for Demonic Tutor to kind of go for Phyrexian. Do we want to go for Phyrexian Arena, though? We don't need it that bad, I don't think. Let's just hold on to Demonic Tutor at this point right now. Let's go for Sky Diamond. And now that I think about it, since we have a ton of artifacts, but a good option to go would be Tezzeret. That'd be really good. And then let's go and pass the turn to our opponent. So now one of the things that we are doing with it, actually our opponent says, let me check it out real quick. Best of luck. One of the things that we are doing with Etrata is that we're running a lot of Planeswalkers in here because we need creatures on the battlefield for Etrata to swoop down and take into the night and take them to the Dimir Club. So, Hostage Taker on top. So, since they do have Oracle, what we're going to do is I'm going to start writing down some of the stuff that they're about to draw into. That way I do not forget about it. It'll not be a lot of fun. Now, one thing that they can do with Hostage Taker, they can take Strionic Resonator. That's going to allow them to at least kind of get rid of that extra ability from Etrata. But at this point right now, once they get a few more creatures going, we can at least kind of get a few of those hit counters going with Etrata. Now, one of the cool things about Birthing Pod is that it is a sorcery speed activation. So we don't have to worry about any sort of, we swing it with Etrata and then they sacrifice it to go do something else. We can still get that trigger going with Birthing Pod because it is a sorcery speed activation. And opponent's going to... Oh, yeah, that's a pretty good flip. Turning an Oracle into Prophet of Krufix. So we don't have to worry about Hostage Taking anymore. But Prophet of Krufix is on the battlefield now, allowing them to untap with a lot of stuff. Let's go to get down Island. Now, if we go for Gilded Lotus, because we want to take care of Prophet of Krufix, that's going to be 1, 2, 3. If we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's actually going to be just enough. So let's do that. Let's go for Gilded Lotus. And if they've got a counterspell, Glenalinda, okay. So what they can do is they can flash in Glenalinda, go for the activated ability, and counter that Gilded Lotus, which if they do, that's actually a really nice line of play. All right, so they're going to get that Persist trigger that will come back. Nice play by our opponent. All right, then anything else, we're going to go and pass the turn to our opponent. Now, we do have Price of Fame. So what we can do is we can go for Price of Fame on Prophet of Krufix, or if we want to kind of force the Linda activation, we can get her into the graveyard. And then once we do that, we can follow that up with at least a Damnation to kind of clean the board up, depending on what sort of creatures they get down, or what sort of Birthing Pod activations they end up going for. But yeah, so like I mentioned, this is a really heavy and bribery. Man, I don't think we have anything in here that's really good for bribery. We have a lot of ninjutsu creatures, and that is it. I'm looking right now. We have Sakashima Student. We have Ninja of Deep Hours. We have, yeah, this is all Planeswalkers. Yeah, there's really slim pickings on what they want to go. At one point, I did have Sire Stagnation in here, but I ended up taking it out for some sort of card advantage. So, yeah, this is a Planewalker focus deck. So we'll see what sort of little creature they get down with bribery. Okay, so opponent will end up going for Sakashima Student, which is not too bad. This is at least going to give them double activations for Galena Linda. But at least at this point right now, we can force the issue with the activation of Galena Linda, since they only do have at least one mana on the battlefield in that command tower at this point right now. And then Sakashima's Student coming back, we'll go ahead and become a copy of Prophet of Kruvix, I think. Yeah, that'll work. All right, opponent will end up going, they go for Acidic Slime off of that Birthing Pod activation. So basically, unfortunately, what happened is our opponent went for the crack on Birthing Pod off of the copy of Galena Linda. And basically what happens is it comes back as a copy of our creature. Now, they are swinging with Galena Linda. Do we want to let that go into the graveyard? We're going for Price of Fame next turn. Yeah, we're okay with that, I think. Yeah, we're going to do that, because that's going to send it in the graveyard. That's going to give him an option to go for Mimeoplasm. But at least if we end up going for that... Oh, excuse me, Galena has flying. Never mind. Okay, they're going to be swinging across for... I was like, we're going to block, but yeah, flying can't happen. I've been recording for about 2 hours at this point right now, so if my gameplay is a little suspect, you know why. That is it. All right, so we do draw into Lightning Greaves, which is actually really good. Do we go for Price of Fame? And it's not a legendary creature. It's going to be a big chunk of what we tap out for if we end up going for that. And actually, now that I think of it, if we go for Demonic Tutor and they counter that, it's going to allow us to go for Damnation and kind of clear the board out. And actually, now that I think about it, if we actually just tap for Etrata, let's do it like this. Let's go for Lightning Greaves. Let's see if they want to pop Lightning Greaves on Galena Linda. We might see that go down. That's going to put us in a position where if they do end up cracking that, okay, there we go. All right, it's going to go for Etrata. I like that. Get down on Etrata. They actually can't sacrifice Etrata in response to that. They do have one card in the hand, so we'll see if they do. Oh, do they have something? Let's see. Okay, they're going to flash in Mimic. Enter the battlefield as a copy of any creature. Let's see if they decide to choose off Acidic Slime. Okay, they will end up targeting the Lightning Greaves off of that. Okay, that's a bummer. And with that Acidic Slime, that's going to be nasty. Oh my goodness. Okay, thankfully though, with Prophet of Kruvix, we can at least kind of go for the Price of Fame to destroy something. And yeah, we're just going to go and pass the turn to our opponent, because then we can untap all creatures and cast creature spells as though they had Flash. Now, is there any way we can do this in response to that? I think they'll still get the Acidic Slime trigger, but if we go for Price of Fame at this point right now, that's going to force them to go for Galena Linda. Is that the sort of thing that we want to force at this point? Because that'll kind of clear the board up for a Damnation. Yeah, let's go and go for that. That will allow them to get another copy of Acidic Slime, I think, if I am correct, if we end up destroying that. But at least it's going to be a token on the battlefield, and that puts us in a position where we can go for Damnation next turn to kind of clean this up. All right, so opponent does go for the Galena Linda crack off that. That's going to be Acidic Slime entering the battlefield. Let's see who they decide to target off of that. And they choose our Drowned Catacomb. And at this point right now, if we're going to actually end up going for Damnation, what we're probably going to do is go for Etrata. We're going to exile Acidic Slime, or actually exile Prophet of Kruvix. That way we get rid of that untap ability. They can flash in a creature, because them flashing in a Mimeoplasm doesn't really sound that fun. So hopefully we can go for Etrata, exile Prophet of Kruvix, and then we'll go for Damnation to kind of clear the board out. Yeah, with our opponent going for the Sakashima Student, when they sacrificed it, they didn't realize it came back to our side of the battlefield. I'll go and say this. I was playing, I think it was Lazov versus Lazov, and I wasn't recording, I was testing, and I got down something to where we could search a creature out of our opponent's library, and then unfortunately, I was like, all right, I'm going to grab their Phyrexian Dreadnought. That way it'll go on our side of the battlefield and die and go into our graveyard. And it was Lazov versus Lazov. And once the Phyrexian Dreadnought when on our side of the battlefield we sacrificed it, it went to our opponent's graveyard, and my opponent was like, thanks, and I'm like, dang it. I've been like playtesting Lazov all day, and I'm just like in my head I have it set that Phyrexian Dreadnought equals good, so just grab Phyrexian Dreadnought. So I stole that out of their library, and then unfortunately if you get Phyrexian Dreadnought on your side of the battlefield and it has that trigger of sacrifice it, it's going to go to your opponent's graveyard, and that happens with, unfortunately, with the persist ability. Another thing that does happen with Persist is, a lot of the flip planeswalkers, stuff like Baby Jace and Baby Gideon, let's say you gain control of one of those creatures, once they do get exiled and flipped, they will go back to their owner's side of the battlefield. So that's going to be something that you do need to keep in mind if you do steal somebody's flip planeswalker. All right, so opponent does go for Birthing Pod and gets down Muldrotha, which is going to allow them to cast stuff out of the graveyard. And the only downside is it's going to allow them to go for Glenalinda, if I'm correct, play up to one permanent out of the graveyard. So if they end up recasting Glenalinda, that's going to be 5 mana, and they can leave up 1 blue activation, but we'll see how they decide to do that, because that will kind of complicate us going for Damnation. I guess either way, we actually be okay on that. The only downside is, let's say we don't hit the land drop, because basically what's going to happen is if they end up going for Glenalinda out of the graveyard, we can go for Demonic Tutor, go for Toxic Deluge, and that'll allow us to clean up the entire board. And then if that gets countered from Glenalinda and we do hit the land drop, that's going to put us at Damnation. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we hit the land drop. That's what we're going for at this point right now. Select for Inspection. Okay. That is not going to get it. Let's go and swing it with Etrata. And actually, we can just simply exile Etrata. Yeah, I like that. We can swing it with Etrata and exile Glenalinda, not have to worry about the activation, and then go for the board wipe. Yeah, that's good. Let's go for that. Now, the only downside is it's going to bring Mimeoplasm back out with a ton of creatures, but at least we'll get that going on our side of the battlefield. Okay, let's go and exile Glenalinda. And the only downside with select for inspection is that we could bounce back Etrata back to our hand, but if we do that, that's going to give them opportunity to counter the select for inspection, which will basically kind of negate the exile clause off of Etrata. Okay, so we do get Glenalinda out of here. Do have a hit counter on her. Let's get her down here. Kind of like it down there. That's kind of cool. Now with Sakashima's Student, unfortunately we can't bounce that back to our hand, but yeah, let's go and go for Damnation. Yeah, we need to go for that. Let's go for Damnation. Either way, win or lose, this has been a really fun game so far. Definitely enjoyed it. Now, it is kind of hard for us to get any sort of mana going, especially with something like our lands getting blown up, but so far it's been a really fun back and forth match from both of us. All right, opponent's going to go for Blighted Cataract, get some card draw going. See if they hit that Force of Will. Okay, that's going to clean the board up, and then anything else we're going to pass the turn to our opponent. Now, with Demonic Tutor in our hand, one thing that we can definitely go for is we do have Swiftfoot Boots in the deck. That will allow us to at least kind of give some sort of haste option for Etrata. Another thing that we can do is search up Ancient Tomb if we want to kind of get that mana going. But another thing is, if we want to leave it open for some sort of Planeswalker, we could definitely go for that too. If they don't end up getting down Mimeoplasm at this point right now, we will definitely be searching up Bojuka Bog to get that down and exile their graveyard. So we'll see what sort of turn they get out for this turn. Because, at this point, if they end up going for Mimeoplasm off of Muldrotha, that's not the end of the world, especially getting a good value creature. And then you can get some good +1 counters from something like Oracle or Prophet of Kruphix. But Muldrotha would definitely be a good option to go for. But either way, we might end up going for Demonic Tutor on Bojuka Bog, because that'll allow us to make the land drop and kind of keep this graveyard in check. Okay, so we do have Mimeoplasm entering the battlefield. Let's see what they decide to choose. Now, the good thing about Mimeoplasm is it does exile 2 creature cards. So they're going to have to exile 2 creature cards out of their graveyard, and then whatever sort of creature they do decide to swing in with, we can at least bounce Mimeoplasm back to their hand. So that's going to at least allow us to kind of clean the board up and kind of get Mimeoplasm going back. All right, suppose it's going to exile Acidic Slime and Oracle, and they will target our land with Acidic Slime. And they will actually go for a Birthing Pod activation too off of Acidic Slime. Let's see who they decide to choose. And they go for Jace. Jace is Mindseeker. Enters the battlefield, target opponent puts the top 5 cards of the library into the graveyard. You may cast an instant or sorcery without paying its mana cost. So we're basically looking at Price of Fame and Damnation. Let's see if we hit anything good. All right, there we go. I'll take that. So basically, we're just looking at a 4/4 flyer at this point right now, which you can definitely survive that off of Birthing Pod. And we'll see how high their converted mana cost is with Jace's Mindseeker, because I kind of like going for the Demonic Tutor Bajuka Bog line of play. Yeah, let's do that. Let's go for Demonic Tutor. Let's go and grab Bajuka Bog. Let's get down Bajuka Bog, exile those cards out of the graveyard. That way there's just not a lot of good stuff for them to exile. And we only basically have Sakashima Student for Mimeoplasm, which is not going to do much. I know. Yeah, we exile our opponent's graveyard. I hate exiling graveyards. It is one of the worst things for me to do as a graveyard player. I don't feel good. It's like, I don't know how to describe it. It's just like part of my heart rips every time I do it. Okay, so our opponent's gonna go swing in for Jason's Mind. So yeah, it is, man. It really is. It's like somebody telling me to go kill a bunch of bunny rabbits. I'm like, I don't want to do this. This is not fun for me. But they're like, you have to survive. So if you've ever wondered, Jolt, man, why don't you run a lot of graveyard hate? That's why, because it kills me every time I do it. I don't like doing it. It's not fun. Now, we do have Select for Inspection in our hand. That's something that we can go for to kind of bounce Jace's Mindseeker back. But at this point right now, that's not exactly what I'm going to go for, especially with Jace's Mindseeker. Giving them the ability to cast anything out of the graveyard at this point right now. Now, with the Acidic Slime doing a really big duty on our lands, we're going to try our best to win this one out, but when you've got a lot of graveyard recursion, you've got a lot of enter the battlefield triggers with Mimeoplasm, it's going to be hard for us to do anything, especially with the Sylvan Primordial. Now, this is a really cool Mimeoplasm deck. I'm really, it's really cool to see this. Do we want to tap down blue? Yeah, we're just going to let that go through. Can't really do anything with Select for Inspection at this point right now. All right, let's see what we draw into. Draw into Soul Ring. Well, that's another way to kind of get some mana going. Let's get down Soul Ring. And I think that might be enough to get down Etrata. Yeah, it's going to be 1, 2, 3. Yeah, okay. So we get down Etrata. It's been a wild game. Let's get down Etrata, and then we'll go and pass the turn to our opponent, and then go from there. But yeah, like I mentioned, they cast Mimeoplasm. That's going to be Jace's Mindseeker, and then something else out of the graveyard. They can use Sakashima's Student as counters, but basically just get that effect, and they'll be able to tutor something for Etrata. So, but we'll see if we can survive. At least we're kind of forcing our opponent to go for that particular line of play. Okay, Eternal Witness. That's definitely a good thing to go for. Now, if they end up going for Jace's sequence, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, excuse me. They're going to be able to go for Price of Fame to destroy target a legendary creature. Yeah, because they cast it without paying its mana cost. Bummer. Okay, that's going to get our commander tax going really high. We do have, I think, we have another board wipe that's going to be Toxic Deluge. So if we can draw into Toxic Deluge, we can maybe get something going. But unfortunately, with the graveyard, I think Bajuka Bog was our only graveyard hate in this particular deck. So kind of climbing an uphill battle at this point right now. All right, so Birthing Pod on Eternal Witness. And then Sylvan Primordial hitting another land. Good game. That's probably gonna actually gonna take Ancient Tomb. That's gonna really cut us down on mana. But targeted land destruction like this, our opponent is putting themselves in a position to close the game out by denying us mana. That is a completely valid strategy within Magic. So I know a lot of people don't like land destruction, but I just at least want to point out that this is a completely valid line of play. It's no different than us going for the exile triggers off of Etrata. It's just kind of fun. It's kind of fun to see different things go through there, and it's always fun to kind of fight through stuff. That's why I really enjoy playing against prison decks. You play against some of these decks that have a lot of constraints on you. It just makes for some really fun interactions sometimes. So, okay, so we have Sylvan Primordial. And unfortunately, we're going to get that Whispering trigger during our upkeep, which is going to make us sacrifice Etrata. Yeah, we can bounce Sylvan Primordial back to the hand, but we cannot tap it to do anything about that. I mean, I guess this is our only option, just to set the scry up for the turn. Let's go and go for Select for Inspection, just to kind of see what's on top of our library. Unfortunately, that's going to give them another cast. Swiftfoot Boots, let's go and put that on the bottom right now. Let's go and sacrifice Etrata. And let's see what we draw into. Draw into Go for the Throat. Well, it's going to get rid of Whispering one. We're going to go for it, yeah. So some sort of draw, and then we'll go and pass the turn to our opponent. It's not looking good, but we're going to make our opponent own it on this one. It's always fun to play against Mimeoplasm, and and unfortunately, that's one of those things that where your opponent is getting down Sylvan Primordial. Blowing up lands is a completely valid thing to choose off of that. You can't choose a creature off of that. If we do have some sort of, bigger artifact on the battlefield, something like Stronic Resonate or Lightning Greaves, you can definitely go for that. But taking care of the lands is something that you can definitely go for. Okay, opponent's going to go for Birthing Pod activation on Mystic Snake. That's going to be the Scarab God. And let's see what they decide to go for off of the Scarab God activation. They ended up going back for Whispering One, which allowed them to start bringing some stuff out of the graveyard. All right, so we have no creature to sacrifice. Thankfully, we can get around Sheoldred. They've drawn 2 Swamp. Let's go and get down Swamp. That's going to be 9 coming across for next turn. Actually, we're going to lose 1. Let's see. So they actually go for 9. That's going to put us down to 4. They make a few more zombie tokens. Yeah, we're going to go on those. Good game. Definitely enjoyed it. We'll go and scoop it up. That way we can save them a few activations. But we're basically drawing dead at this point right now. And this is what Commander's about. Having some fun. We had a lot of punches back and forth, and I really enjoyed it. And plus, I always love seeing Mimeoplasm. It's really fun to kind of play against that deck. And seeing our opponent play this certain version of Mimeoplasm is really wanting me to kind of rework my Mimeoplasm deck into kind of more of an enter the battlefield style deck. In fact, if you see this video, Gunther, you should definitely post your deck list. I wouldn't mind kind of borrowing a few ideas from it. So, if you enjoyed the video, like and subscribe. Thanks. Bye.